Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. We always could spot a friend. Welcome back. And I smile when I think how you must have been.
Welcome back to the This Is Me series, a chance for us to get to know each other with funny and interesting and otherwise serious videos and comments, a way for all of you to get to know who I am and for me to get to a little bit to know about you. So today's topic is about embarrassment and also collectibles. I've got a couple collections that I'm building. So embarrassment. Sometimes embarrassment provokes shame, or sometimes we just laugh at our own embarrassment or situations that have happened to us. And to be completely honest with you, there's very little that I get embarrassed about, at least in the moment. I don't blush or, run off from shame. Usually I laugh at the situation, especially when it involves me, but I really don't get embarrassed. But the only thing that I can collectively remember being embarrassed about is when I was in kindergarten. We had a bathroom in the classroom at the back, and I remember having to go to the bathroom. That's why I was in there. And I noticed that my pants were on backwards. I had long pants on, kind of dress pants. And as a kindergartner, when you're figuring out how zippers and buttons work, it was kind of terrifying. Now I was thinking in my head, what do I do about the situation? Do I go tell a teacher? Do I go find a friend? What do I do? So I remember finally going to tell a teacher and feeling really embarrassed about it, being a shy and reserved person growing up, especially as a kid. But I remember feeling so much embarrassment that, one, I was in this space like a bathroom and I had put my pants on backwards and not realizing that whole time that my pants were on backwards. I felt a little uncomfortable, I remember that, but as a little kid, it didn't recall to me why I had put it on backwards. So that's really the only thing I get embarrassed about to this day. In my family, we have a running joke about how bad I am at home ec, especially sewing, not so much the cooking and baking. But we had to do 3 examples for sewing class for home ec. So we made a push pin, wrist or corsage, I guess you'd say. And then, so I made mine as Green Bay Packers. That's the team I liked at the time. Have become mature or wisdom with being a Bears fan. It was only a phase for about 2 years being a Packers fan. So we made a wrist push pin. Then we made boxers, which that was a little bit more difficult, but I did pretty well on that. So our third project and our bigger project was making a sweater from start to finish, picking out the fabric at the store and picking out the pattern and having more than enough time to do it. So I had to spend much of my after school time, and if I had any free time, going into the sewing room and working on that. And I'm a kinesthetic learner, which means I need to learn through doing it myself. So I made a sweater that is awful, but I think my teacher, Mrs. Murphy, just passed me so she wouldn't have to deal with my struggling to make a product. So I presented this green sweater, which is awful. The cuffs are about 4 or 5 inches long. The hemline is really wavy, and the collar is awful as well. But that's something that I don't get embarrassed about. I knew that I really struggle with it, and I just kind of make it a joke as we pass it on from one family member to the other, kind of this white elephant gift that no one really wants. So that's not embarrassing for me. I knew that it was a difficult project, and that Mrs. Murphy probably was glad that I had somehow passed that class. But what embarrassing things, what ways have you been embarrassed? Or what are some situations that you don't mind sharing that have been about embarrassment? So the second part is about collectibles. So there's a couple things that I collect. The biggest thing is rocks and fossils and arrowheads and that kind of material stuff. So I have, that I've unpacked so far, I have just probably maybe a fourth or a fifth of all the rocks and things I have, but I have things like arrowheads and glass that's been beaten down, kind of sea glass, you might call it. I have coal from mission trips or from the railroad that went through my previous community, or just, rocks in general that are smooth or have a cool pattern or color. So those have always been a part of wherever I go on a mission trip or go to a different part of the country. I always think of things and find things that can remember, I remember, getting this rock in Sanibel Island, Florida, or on a trip to the tidal pools in California. So those have been a big part of collecting for me. The other thing I really like to collect, which is going to be one day made into a quilt or a blanket, are t-shirts from that tell a story of my life. So legacy has always been important to me about who I am and where I've come from, telling my story. So some of the t-shirts I have that I'll show have an important part in my life, even at only 35. So my first one is my high school running track, doing hurdles. So that was a big part of overcoming obstacles, as I had knee surgery a couple years before that, and kind of this competitive edge and becoming a leader. This is a t-shirt from my first mission trip back my freshman year in high school, and I still have that. My fraternity was always meaningful to me, all the brothers and relationships I built with that, and finding a new community that was open to new perspectives, especially to Christianity in a different kind of way of who is part of that Christian fellowship. So my fraternity and one of our parties, we had a mission trip, and our mission trip shirt is when I went to Remember. I know some of you have been there for the UCC affiliated group with Aglala Lakota in Pine Ridge. This really spoke to me, my first mission trip out there, about our history as a church with Congregational, both good and bad, and the relationships we have with people that are very different from us. Here's more of my UCC, taking one of my first youth groups to Great Lakes Regional Youth Event when I was in Illinois, and the memories that I have from that, the humorous times. And then one of my mission trip shirts from the UCC church that I grew up in, and how that has been a part of my faith, and, on the back of who some of those participants were, and Statue of Liberty, we went through New York that year. So that's been a bigger part of what I collect, of sharing my story about rocks or fossils or sea glass, about the memories that have been made there in those places, that I can take that with me to tell the story about that. But also t-shirts that have profound meaning for me with the people that I was with and the memories that go along with it. Now, another thing that is rather interesting, or some people might find it odd, is not only t-shirts are really sparking interest in me like that, but the shirt that I have on today, I really have been fascinated by, especially sports teams or colleges that have interesting mascots that you can wear, and it's a good conversation starter. So where I grew up, the conference that I was part of for sports, there are sports teams that have unusual names that might be rather odd. So for one is a team whose mascot is the Blue Streaks. Now the Blue Streaks were, on their mascot, their logo was lightning. Or there's another team that's close to me that's called the Whippers, which is like a wildcat. The shirt that I have on here is an actual team in Monroe, Wisconsin, and they are the Cheesemakers, because they are, I believe, 7th and 8th generation Swiss cheesemakers. The high school my mom went to is the Freeport Fighting Pretzels. So they have a mascot that's in a pretzel uniform. Or I know more locally, I've discovered last week about Mount Clemens being the Battling Bathers. So it just surprises me and kind of gives me a chuckle. So I've been working on finding t-shirts or other memorabilia of unusual or interesting mascots, and just the conversations that bring into that. So if you know of want to share any embarrassing stories or things that you collect, maybe it's rocks or coins or stamps, bumper stickers, t-shirts, or know of any unusual mascots. So please feel free to share in our time together. I always enjoy these moments to tell you more about me so we can get to know more about each other at this time. So feel free to comment, and we'll see you Sunday. So may it be so.